In the pre-modern world, I think, as far as I can tell, most civilizations agreed that there was a human nature. Certainly the Islamic did, even the Indic and the Buddhist traditions would have understood that as well. And the Buddha nature was a potential that could be realized in any human being. You also have, certainly in the Christian tradition, the idea of human nature. They might differ on certain aspects of its potentialities, but essentially the idea of a unified nature. Since the Enlightenment period, people like Hume, who reject human nature, and then in the 20th century, you get, like Merleau-Ponty says something like, the only nature that humans share is that they share no nature. Or you get somebody like Ortega y Gasset, who also denies human nature. And I think modern, there's, in fact, Pinker, who's at Harvard, Steven Pinker, wrote a book called The Blank Slate, arguing that there is a human nature, and very troubled by this negation or denial of human nature. One of the things that we're seeing now is the idea of a fluid nature, that human beings they might be born into the wrong body, for instance. So I have I'm a female trapped in a man's body, and instead of seeing that maybe as dysmorphia or some type of mental illness that needs to be treated, it's now being embraced even in children, and children are being encouraged. In fact, I think in Sweden they're doing non-gender child rearing, where the children wear the same clothes, the traditional pink and blue, for instance, that people would, if it was a girl, they would give at the wedding shower, they would give all these nice girly type things. And this is the argument that this is simply enculturation, that this is nurtural, not natural, and that the nature of, in fact, Aleister Crowley, in the Book of the Law, chapter 2, argues over 100 years ago that the time is coming soon when we will be free of this binary, and we will be able to choose our own genders. So this is something that we're really seeing happening all over now, and young people are really encouraged. I actually saw an East Asian man, if you can believe this. I saw a Pakistani man with a nose ring. And I was amazed at that, because I think in that culture, I think maybe in some of the Hindu castes or something, I don't know. But in that culture, a man would not wear a nose ring, as far as I know. But this is kind of the throwing off of cultural decorum and this idea. How would you address that, just from this denial of human nature that we're seeing in the 20th century and the 21st century?
You know, that on the level of the horizontal, which is, you know, if you live in a world where you only explain things by reference to other things like them, that's like a horizontal universe, then there is no meaning there. And there are no immutables. And there's no truth either. And atheism, agnosticism, they require a horizontal world. And once you put in the vertical connection, which is to look up to heaven and to look to first principles, the law of non-contradiction, the excluded middle, the law of identity, causality, possibility, necessity, impossibility, then you've got a tent. And then you have a structure. And then you have also meaning. So a lot of the things that we see in our time is because of this Cartesian worldview that we have, where we don't even know what's out there. We don't even know that it is out there. We can't relate to it. And, you know, so you have all these social experiments. And most of these social experiments around gender, they go back also, it's very important to study the genealogy of ideas. So that is a complex issue. Descartes is the one who gives us the concept of mind in its modern sense, and his is sexless, which is something we say is a fundamental mistake. And that's also important, genderless. But you have Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, Wilhelm Reich, I-C-H, the sexual revolutions from him, and he means revolution. He means revolution. And you only win that revolution when incest is best. Okay, it's got to go there. And then you have also Herbert Marcuse. He was a big deal here in Berkeley in the 1960s, Eros and Civilization and so forth. And then you have Judith Butler. And of course, what you're talking about, as you know...
Judith's right next door. Yeah.
She is?
She's next door, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought she was in Israel.
No, she teaches here at UC Berkeley.
Okay, I didn't know that. But so it's very important to know who gave you this idea and where did they get it from and what are their first principles. And so much of modern thought doesn't even have first principles. Right. And therefore, for us, we want to get our orientation correct, and we want to know, why do we believe what we believe? Where do we begin? How does the intellect work? Most people don't even know today what intellect is. Intellect doesn't need anything outside of itself. And of course, you've heard about that in the debunking of the syllogism and things like that, but that's not true. In any universal statement like existence and non-existence, the syllogism works perfectly because you have excluded middle. You distribute the middle term. And, so for us, and I think this is one of the great things about Zaytuna, is that we learn our tradition, where we get our ideas and how we know them. And we also learn that the West is a tradition. Right. And that these ideas don't drop out of the sky. There are certain people that are behind them, and I feel that one of the most eloquent ways to address these issues and most objective ways is look at where the ideas come from.